Welcome, everybody, to another exciting edition of Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel. That very fortunate gentleman on the other side of your screen is Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. I say fortunate not only because he's devilishly handsome and remains to look in his 50s, even when he was in his 30s, and now he's in California, where the high temperature is a hellish 75 degrees. Clarence, before we get into the topics, I
75 degrees. He's freezing up. Mac is always freezing up.
Are you
He's
serious?
always freezing up on us. But
I didn't do anything wrong.
You just look at the camera. The camera breaks when you look in it. That's just what it is.
Take that personally. Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. First things first, Clarence, I need a weather report. And know this, when you give me the weather report, I will be shooting a certain middle finger at you. I don't want to say which one, right or left, but go ahead.
You cannot give me half the peace sign. That's just not right.
All right, go ahead. How's the weather?
It's 67 degrees in Oxnard on this Wednesday morning. 67 degrees. But I guarantee you it's going to get as high as 74 by 3 p.m.
Ooh, it's sunny.
It's 74 by 3 p.m. We're going to be hot.
You got the sunblock? Are you?
And Candy's our producer. And I was saying it's sneaky hot. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful. Don't want to be disrespectful to the people fighting 105-degree temperatures. But when you're out there at practice and you're in the sun and you're doing interviews for 2 hours, you're not standing outside for 2 hours in Texas, okay? But when you're standing out there and the sun is on top of you and there's no cloud cover, there's no marine layer, and it's beaming right on you, you can get burned. People are getting burned out here.
Yeah. Has anybody died covering?
They've been in the tent. And we're in the media tent, like a tent, and so it just like sucks in the heat, and it's just everybody's all writing, and we're sweating. Some people have to bring in fans because it's just it's just awful.
Yeah. Has anybody died? Has anybody died this year covering and Oxnard covering the team?
Really, no. No one's died. But I will say I'm going to die this weekend. Before we get to your age is just a number, Aaliyah. Age is just a number.
Like I knew who that was.
R. Kelly. You may be young, but you're ready. It sounds like what you're saying here.
Candy, can you convert that into a TikTok, please? not the part where he talks about being an R. Kelly guy, but where he's just saying, I want that on like a TikTok. I might make that into my ringtone.
I will say this though. Speaking of age, I'm missing my 40th high school class reunion this weekend in Schulenburg, Texas. So shout out to the Schulenburg Showdown, class of 83. Bad as we can be, class of 83. School song, Up Where We Belong. I don't know if you remember Up Where We Belong. That was our school song back in 1983. Orange and Black Attack, Schulenburg High School, Showdowns Forever. Shout out to my people from Schulenburg. We do our class reunions in Schulenburg during the festival. We have a city festival every year, and we do our class reunion during the festival, and it's always the first weekend in August.
So you always miss it.
In training camp.
Well, when you were, I'm trying to do the timeline. I was 2 years old when you were graduating from high school.
Lies.
Sorry, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Okay. Clarence, we've got
Live like R. Kelly.
Good God, that's awful. So, Clarence, you have been out at Dallas Cowboys training camp for everything so far. And before we get into the topic, this particular topic, I want to get your thoughts on your early impressions here 10 days out before the Cowboys officially open fake football season when they host Jacksonville on August 12th.
Before I go, I just want to just set the tone for camp. We have a video from practice I shot yesterday, and let's play that video, and then we'll talk. That's done.
Go, Dak! Go, Dak! Go, Dak! Get in the box! Get in the box! Box! Box!
First of all, let's just go into the fine camera work. Steven Spielberg, Michael Bay, Christopher Nolan-esque work. I know right now Hollywood can't create new content because of the actors and the Writers Guild, but Clarence Hill Jr. is the man behind the camera. That is fine camera work of catching Dak Prescott not throwing an interception, eating it because there was no one open because Trayvon Diggs covered everybody, and then Trayvon let him know about it. Clarence, what do you make of, obviously you got the video, it's a great video, seriously, by the way, it was a good video. What do you make of the fact that the cornerback just got in the quarterback's face and really let him know what he thinks about him on that play?
What, they talk trash all the time. And what's not seen in that video is Dak doing 7-on-7. He threw, they did a mojo moment. I don't know if you Mike McCarthy's this whole mojo moment thing where they do this play to show how, it's, of course, it hasn't worked in the playoffs. Those mojo moments, they haven't really performed.
It's more of a regular season thing.
They try to get them hyped up for these big situations. And Dak, completed 5 straight conversions, touchdowns in mojo moments, and a couple of them were against Diggs. And so there's back and forth going all the time. And so, yeah, Diggs has gotten his face and talked a little trash and said some choice curse words that people on Twitter say, you should never say that to your quarterback. You must don't respect him. They hate Dak. And that's far from the truth. The Eagles fans, they're all on my Twitter and all over. See that they don't like Dak. They're done with Dak. There's no way you should talk to him that way. And that's just playful banter. And that's what it is. Even LVE got in on it a little bit yesterday. So, but that's been part of practice. It's highly competitive. It's a highly competitive environment. Mike McCarthy talked to us yesterday and said that one reason why they're not practicing against other teams, other than it did no good for them last year and it was a waste of time, is that they are so competitive that they don't need it. They're creating a competitive environment. This defense is tough. This defense is good. That defensive line is good. Micah Parsons has been wrecking practice. I
saw that. He sacked Dak Prescott, really sacked him.
Getting too close.
No one tell him, hey, don't touch the guy in the red jersey.
Getting too close to him, but murdering, and let's not use murder.
Embarrassing Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith, who was a Pro Bowl tackle. He's unblockable. It is unreal. He's just they can't get anything done. And so, it's two-hand touch. So you're completing passes, but it's after he was sacked. It was after he was sacked. But no, one thing of note is that the receiving core is much better than it was last year. Brandon Cooks has made a huge difference.
That was Michael Gallup or even Jalen Tolbert. Look, we talked
about
those guys a lot.
Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert look much better than they did last year. Well, yeah, much better than they did last year for sure. Michael Gallup is back to being Michael Gallup. He's healthy. Okay. He looks good. Jalen Tolbert is taking a step. Your boy Kavontae Turpin has looked good as a receiver. Former
team. Use him. They always talked about it. They really didn't. Do you think they'll actually
use him? He's catching everything, and he's fast. And then, so Mike McCarthy is really trying to find ways to use the little guys. He's a big guy. Mike McCarthy likes the long and lean guys, but he's trying to find a way to get Deuce Vaughn, Kavontae Turpin, and Cooks involved because he likes long guys, but the speed that they bring, they're much faster at receiver than they were a year ago. They're much better at receiver than they were a year ago. That was an awful receiver core that they had in training camp. They had to start the season much better. So it is, Dak had a couple of interceptions early last week, but they've made plays. They've made plays in practice, and it's going to be a good environment. Again, the question you still have is what do you have behind Tony Pollard? What you have.
We'll talk. That leads us into it does lead us into our next topic, which is you were a handful of members of the media talked to Jerry Jones. And now the Dallas Cowboys do have a situation at running back. Ronald Jones, their designated backup behind Tony Pollard, has been suspended by the NFL for violating the league's substance abuse policy. He said there was confusion. He didn't deliberately take anything that would have been considered a performance-enhancing drug. The NFL's policy states otherwise. So now it's, who's going to back up Tony Pollard? And the name Zeke Elliott keeps coming up, even though Zeke was cut by the Cowboys several months ago, and he remains on the street as a free agent. Jerry Jones seems to be the only one within the Dallas Cowboys saying, I wouldn't give up on Zeke yet. He might be a fit, but Mike McCarthy does not sound like he really thinks that's a step in the right direction. Clarence, why won't Jerry put to rest Zeke Elliott as a Cowboy?
Because Zeke won't get a job. If Zeke gets a job, and it's funny because I was talking to guys last night. We had one thing you missed last night. We had the Jerry party in Malibu.
Thanks.
We were in Malibu, Nobu on the beach,
Thanks.
eating Johnny Walker, drinking Johnny Walker Blue, eating, fine dining, mixing with the rich and famous.
Was it cold? Was it hot? Did anybody die?
No one died. We're mixing with the rich and famous,
Thank God.
But when Zeke got cut in March, no one thought at the time that he would still be unemployed in August, and so it never came up.
Did you?
No one thought that he would.
No. I'm not talking about an NFL or an agent or someone with the Cowboys, because the way we see NFL running backs continue to deteriorate like just crazy rapidly this offseason.
Right, but we didn't see
this. Surprise.
We didn't see this offseason coming. I'm sorry.
Off a cliff.
It has transpired this offseason.
Yeah.
But we didn't see this offseason coming. I mean, no one would have thought if you started the offseason that all these guys would not have jobs. We certainly saw the money coming down, but no one saw that this. We certainly didn't see this offseason coming. And so and again, you got Dalvin Cook. There's a number of backs out there. We didn't. So I didn't think that he would not get a job at all. Certainly, we thought that he wouldn't get the money he wanted.
Right.
We knew he wasn't going to get $10 million, but no one saw him being unemployed this long. And so I think that has helped fuel this Zeke coming back to the Cowboys because he don't have a job and they have opening. If he signs with someone else, we're not having this conversation. He goes and visits New England last week, and if they sign him, we're not having this conversation. And New England really likes him. It's my understanding that Bill Belichick called Steven and Jerry and asked about Zeke. They haven't made the move yet, but it's something they're interested in. So if one of those teams signs him, we're not having this conversation. But because they haven't signed him, it's a topic that comes with the Cowboys because there remains a hole. The Cowboys do not have a short yardage back. They don't have a goal line back. Certainly Tony can do the job. I don't know if you want Tony doing it, for 17 games and getting that type of carries on his back, but they need a short yardage back. So that's something that Zeke did very well last year.
So who is that guy? So Clarence, if it's not going to be Zeke, and it's not, and they need 3 yards, they need 2 yards, which Zeke could do because he was a big guy and he had good drive. You're right. The Tony Pollard thing doesn't really fit in that situation. Certainly they're not going to ask Deuce Vaughn to do it. I mean, that's not his thing. And Ronald Jones is suspended. Who on the team is going to do it?
Dak Prescott.
Okay, that's actually a good answer. Okay,
it's a great answer because what the Eagles did last year with the quarterback sneak, unstoppable. When the Cowboys started using Dak on sneaks last year, it was unstoppable.
Jalen Hurts can squat lift an 18-wheeler. This is
Dak is a big boy. Dak is strong. He's a big boy. Dak's a big boy. Dak, you got to see those street trunk legs. He's a big boy.
Well, he's going to get behind Tyler Smith, pride of North Crowley in Fort Worth, Texas, and go get himself 2 yards. Okay, we've got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime, but first, a word from Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back here on StarTelegram.com, Cowboys Overtime. Thank you, Window Nation. Thank you, Clarence Hill Jr., for braving the frigid temperatures of Southern California, 68 degrees. Don't know how you're going to live. All right.
And Candy let us know that she was outside in Austin on 6th Street for 2 hours this weekend. That was a personal choice.
Thank you.
That was a personal choice.
Candy, I know, Candy, you're not on camera, but I need you to type. There's a screen here on the side where we can type.
How drunk were you? How drunk were you?
Candy, we need an answer to that question, please. Inquiring minds want to know. She's ducking us. I bet she's not even listening to us if she's smart. Okay, Clarence, this story will never go away. Oh, Candy says, no, I was really the sober friend. Lies. Lies.
There's
2
no
hours
sober friend in Austin. There's no sober friend on 6th Street.
Okay.
I went to school there.
Then you're eating gummies or
That's
edibles.
an oxymoron.
Brownies.
There's no sober friend on 6th Street.
Okay, Clarence, this next story will never end because of pettiness, because I don't know why. Jerry Jones holds the key to whomever, well, the Dallas Cowboys, but whomever goes into the Ring of Honor. And right now, it doesn't look like anybody's going to get in the ring this year. But the name that keeps coming back and back and back for justified reasons is that Jimmy Johnson is not there, even though Jimmy is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, due in large part the success that he had with the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s. By the way, they won 2 Super Bowls under Jimmy, and he was the architect for a team that won a 3rd. In case you don't remember, Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since those teams broke apart. You guys you members of the media, asked Jerry Jones about it, and he once again punted, and then he comes up with the humdinger line, which is, there are other coaches I'd like to put in there too. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Jerry moves the needle still, even as he's getting older. He still knows how to move the needle. But, you said it, Clarence. Why is Jerry punishing Jimmy with this? Quite frankly, it makes me mad. It really makes me mad because I'm like, these guys are getting older. We don't know how much time we have. Why not just do this? And he won't. And I don't know why. Do you?
It's still personal. There's still personal bitter feelings from how it ended and the disrespect. He feels disrespected. He said all the right things, but he still feels disrespected by Jimmy in how he dismissed his involvement, his contributions to those title teams and what they did. And he's personally disrespected because he and Jimmy were personal friends. He felt they were close personal friends, and everything he went through, how he bought the team, the chance he took on the team. He talks about how broke the Cowboys were, and he was taking a chance, and he was putting it all out there, challenging the NFL, with all the marketing, trying to help the league grow the league. And Jimmy just disrespects him and disrespects his contribution, and he is still bothered by it, still to this day.
Then I think we have to ask the question: Is Jimmy ever going to get in?
I think at some point, I would say that it's a wrong assumption to say that nobody's going in this year. There's a good chance that Marcus Ware goes in. He's getting in the Hall of Fame. There's a good chance that he goes in, and Jerry does not need a huge lead up to make that announcement to get it done. And so there's a good chance, DeMarcus Ware goes in. But
Clarence, real quick, I want to cut you off real quick. I want to interject this question. The thought was for a long time that when Ware would go in, Jason Witten and Tony Romo would join him on the same night, much in the same way the Cowboys handled the triplets, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman going in on a Monday night 15 years ago, however long that was. Is that scenario no longer in play?
I wouldn't say it's no longer in play. It's whatever happens in Jerry's mind. I know most of the time he's put guys in once they got in the Hall of Fame, and it was upon after they got in the Hall of Fame. He's made the Hall of Fame a standard for the Ring of Honor. That's he obviously put Woodson in trying to help him get in the Ring of Honor, but Woodson also won titles. But he's made the Hall of Fame a standard. We know Witten's getting in. I don't think Romo's getting in. It's going to be delicate. I'm sure he's going to get in at some point. I don't, it's conceivable that he puts all 3 in because they came in together. They were part of those teams, but nothing's a guarantee at this point. Nothing's a guarantee in how he's going to handle that. Because if you put Romo in, who doesn't have a ring, then you open the door for a whole lot of guys. Who
no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember talking to Danny White years ago, and Danny was really good. And Danny's problem was he wasn't Roger Staubach, and he followed Roger. But if you look at Danny's achievements, and he did win Super Bowls as a punter.
He retired as the team's all-time leading passer.
Yep.
He took him to 3 straight NFC championship games.
Yep.
Romo's never skipped a championship game.
No, and what Romo has is
retired as the team's all-time leading passer. He broke Danny White's record, but that's not Danny White's fault. At the time, he was the team's all-time leading passer.
And when I asked Danny about it, Danny's point was, I'm not sure. He's very humble about it. Danny's a really nice man. He's very humble about it. And he just said, I don't know if I did it long enough to warrant inclusion. He said, I'd certainly welcome it. But I think he thought maybe Romo should have been ahead of him in line. And my thought was, no, I thought Danny should because of what you just mentioned. He did things with that team that probably wasn't as good. And he got them places that Tony never did. Now, as we all know, sometimes those things are just out of, little things break right, break left. And all of a sudden you're not in an NFC title game or whatever. And all of a sudden, you get judged for it. And that's the way sports goes. And they understand that. But when I looked at those guys, if you're going to put in Romo and you can make a real good case, he deserves it, that I think you've got to really look hard at Danny White. And I don't think because I don't think Jerry has the relationship with Danny, and as a result, Danny will never get in. All right, let's move on to our second to last topic. We do have something other than Dallas Cowboys to talk about, and that is the Texas Rangers, because the Rangers, for the first time in a long time, are very relevant in August for the right reasons. They are in first place barely, and general manager Chris Young went all in at the trade deadline. They acquired starting ace pitcher Max Scherzer from the Mets for a highly regarded prospect. They also acquired St. Louis Cardinals pitchers Jordan Montgomery, he's a starter, and reliever Chris Stratton, and a 5-player trade. They also got catcher Austin Hedges from the Detroit Tigers, who will start or fill in the place for injured catcher Jonah Heim. Talk about that in a second. Jonah Heim's absence could be significant, but Clarence, the Rangers are all in. Football's different, the way the salary cap and all that stuff. Do you look at what the Rangers did and see any similarity with how the Cowboys have built this team, or is it completely different because the leagues are just so much different?
Well, it's different because the Cowboys have been competitive. The Rangers have not been competitive, up until this year. No one even saw this year coming. I mean, you couldn't have told me in March, that this Rangers team would be in first place this long, had the best record through 60 games of any team in Rangers history. And no one saw this coming. But the great thing about it is now that it's here, we're going for it. We're not getting off the gas. We're going to add pitchers. We're going to try to maximize this opportunity. And that's what you hope you see from the Cowboys, is that maximize the opportunity that you have to win. And if you're close, then do whatever you can, leave no stone unturned to get it done. I think that's part of the thought process of changing the coaching staff that they did in the offseason, actually being more aggressive with signing free agents or trading for top players, trading with starters and Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore, which has greatly improved the talent on his football team. But hey, good for the Rangers. Let them set the tone.
You've lived here forever, so you have a really good appreciation for the Rangers' history. The Rangers over/under on their season win total, I think, was like 80.5. And I took the under because that would have been a 12 or 13 game improvement. Well, they're probably going to get there. They're 61-46 right now. They've gone out and they've made these big moves. And here's the challenge. Here's my question for you. The Mariners are in 4th place in the division. The Mariners were a playoff team last season. They're 6 games behind the Rangers, even though they're in 4th. The Angels, who have they have the best player in baseball in Shohei Ohtani. They're 5.5 games out. And the Astros, who went out and got Justin Verlander back for their rotation after he left in the offseason for the Mets, they're a half game behind the Rangers. Even though they made these big moves, do you still think they will finish in first place at the end of the season?
I don't know, but the beauty is the Rangers knew how close it was. They know how close it is. And they're not saying, hey, we're happy with what we've done, what we've accomplished. We want to finish it, which is why they had to make those moves. And it was funny because I was watching, reading some Houston on Twitter, Houston sports on Twitter. And 2 days ago, when the Rangers made their deal and was making some moves, Dustin Baker was talking about how he wished the Astros would make moves. I mean, everybody, you got to do things. So they're reacting to what the Rangers did.
No doubt about it.
And so the Angels were getting ready to trade Ohtani. They just said, no, we're still in this thing. We're not going to trade Ohtani. And it's funny because, Jerry always talks about, his greatest disappointment is not getting the Super Bowl with Tony Romo and wasting Tony Romo's talent. The greatest disappointment in baseball is that the Angels have the two best players in baseball and have done nothing.
Nothing. They haven't gone to the playoffs with Mike Trout and Ohtani. And there's 7 teams that make the playoffs, Clarence, and they've never. This is their 6th year together, and they've never gotten to the playoffs.
And they've had Pujols with them. I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane.
That the Raiders, so with Jerry, that little Romo stuff. Talk to the Angels about Ohtani.
All right, last topic we're going to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime is not Cowboys related, but it's a subject that's near and dear to our heart. Because
and the Cowboys
you're right, and the Cowboys. On Saturday night in Las Vegas, a guy that Clarence and I both know and like had his shot at the title, and not just any shot. We're talking about an almost a very, very rare chance to unify the welterweight boxing championship across 4 belts. Boxing has 4 organizations that have championships, and the fight between undefeated Terrence Bud Crawford, who was 39-0, against Errol Spence of DeSoto, who was 27-0 or 28-0, was a big, big deal. And we were both very excited about it. And unfortunately, my fears of the one thing that Errol Spence had, of the one vulnerability that Errol Spence had as a great fighter, Bud Crawford totally exploited and kicked his butt, knocked him down in the 2nd round, knocked him down twice again in the 7th with devastating counter punches. And eventually the fight mercifully was stopped in the 9th round. Now, Bud Crawford is now maybe the greatest fighter of his generation, the Bud Crawford era, as he liked to say. It's hard to argue with him. He's 40-0. Errol Spence now drops his first fight as a professional fighter. Stephen A. Smith, big fight fan himself, comes out and says Errol Spence, who is 33 years old, should retire. Errol's not going to retire, but as there was a clause in the contract between the 2 fighters that whomever lost has the right to exercise a rematch. And Errol said, I want to do it, but I want to fight it at 154 pounds. He fought the last fight at 147. It's not the reason he lost. The reason he lost is he got out punched by a better fighter. Clarence, it was a bummer for me to watch because I like Errol Spence and I wanted to see them get it. But I got to tell you, there was nothing I saw in that fight at all that indicated that even in a rematch, Errol Spence could get Bud Crawford.
No doubt. That it was a complete domination. I remarked it didn't look like Bud Crawford broke a sweat. It was like a sparring match. Right?
Yeah.
It was easy. It was easy. I would say that Errol Spence did not look like himself. I'm not taking anything away from Bud. Bud was the superior fighter. Again, he made it look easy. I think that getting to the weight took a lot out of him. He walks around at 180, 190 pounds, and getting to 147 took a lot out of him. That's why he wants to do it at 154. Not that it's going to make a difference. I just think Bud is a superior fighter. And I was talking to Calvin Watkins of Dallas Morning News, quote-unquote boxing guy. I said, this is the fault of you boxing guys. The boxing community, you guys disrespected Bud Crawford. No one knew how good he was. You guys
Clarence, Bud has something to do with that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, what I'm saying.
Bud lives in Omaha, Nebraska. And
whatever. Just because he lives away don't mean if I watch fights, I can't say he's a good fighter. No. I'm sorry. That's for the John Q public, but it's your job as watchers of boxing to tell us who the good fighters are. The fact that few people had Bud as the pound for pound best boxer coming into this fight is criminal.
He was 39-0, and he smoked everybody.
He smoked everybody. He got like 18 straight knockouts, whatever else. So whether it's in Omaha or whatever, it's on TV. So, people go to the fight, and so it's criminal because Bud was great. I've been talking to Jerry, all the Cowboys. They watched it. Everybody was like they were disappointed, but you come away with say, man, Bud's good. How good is Bud?
He's sensational.
Really good. And the fact that he's 35 and people are just now realizing how good he was.
Well, Candy asked me, hang on, Clarence. Candy asked me here on our chat thing. She said, "What's wrong with Omaha?" She's from Omaha. Nothing's wrong with Omaha, but if you're a fighter, you normally hang around Vegas.
The only reason we know about Omaha is because Peyton Manning Omaha. Okay,
Warren Buffett might have something to
that's
say
the only
about
reason
that.
you know about Omaha. Okay,
Warren Buffett and
no
Candy
one
Bolden.
knows anything about Omaha. It's Omaha.
Warren Buffett would disagree. Steaks, Candy Bolden, Warren Buffett, Peyton Manning. But
Peyton
the challenge is, like, if you're going to be a boxer these days, like the Floyd Mayweather plan, you have to stand up on a table and beat your chest, say what a badass you are. And Bud Crawford's not doing that.
No.
He's showing everybody, and you're right. It was us and the media that covers him that we didn't want to give him his due, even though he destroyed everybody. Well, now he goes out, and the fight that he didn't need it, and he just toyed with Errol Spence. It was hard to watch. Errol said after the fight he'd really like to get a rematch done by the end of the year. I don't see how that's possible. But if they fight again, and look, Errol Spence deserves credit. He hung tough. He kept trying. He just wasn't on that same guy's level.
He's a warrior. And just it says that watcher of boxing, a lot of great champions have gone down and come back. You know, from Sugar Ray, Muhammad Ali, George Frazier, George Foreman. You know, what makes a great champion is getting off the mat. I mean, there are a few people who go clean like Floyd Mayweather and certainly what Bud Crawford is doing, but champions are made being able to fight back. I mean, you know, so much respect for Sugar Ray and some of the great champions for being able to get off the mat and fight back and become a champion again. So we'll see. I don't know.
Do you want to see him fight again?
From a personal standpoint, I don't want to see him get beat up again. No, you know, just and I don't know if I will buy a fight like that, but I
an expensive fight.
But I understand the sentiment. I understand him wanting another shot because that's the competitor in him. He's a warrior.
All right, Dallas Cowboys preseason fake football starts on August 12th against Jacksonville at Jerry World. Until then, Clarence Hill will be in the subarctic region that is Southern California, where he might get hot. That's terrible.
Sneaky hot. It's sneaky hot, man. Sneaky hot.
I remember that. For all of your Cowboys coverage needs and everything else, please.
But I won't be the designated driver on 6th Street, okay?
Yeah, that's what she was, the sober friend. Thanks, Candy, for being
sober friend on 6th Street.
For Clarence and our sober friend, Candy Bolden, I'm Mac Engel. We'll see you next week.